Today I'm giving you tips on visiting Acadia National Park in Maine. I visited Acadia with my dad and two dogs in October, and we had a blast. I think it was the perfect time of year to go since Acadia is known for its fall foliage. We went just before Columbus Day weekend, so it did start to get pretty crowded later in the week, and it starts to get pretty chilly at night. If you have one of the national park annual passes, you're in for free, or it's $35 per car. If you're visiting in the summer or a holiday, I would definitely suggest going during the week and get to the park before 8 a.m. or after 4 p.m. Parking at the stops started to fill up by 8 a.m. and started to clear out by the mid-afternoon. You can always park at the visitor center and take their shuttle too. More on the shuttle service in a little bit. Acadia National Park is mostly located on Mount Desert Island. However, it extends to part of the Shudik Peninsula on Maine's mainland, as well as Alaho and a few other smaller islands. It's one of our smaller national parks at less than 50,000 acres. It's one of the only national parks I've been to where the towns and the non-park land are kind of interdispersed. It's part of the island. And you could drive into the park technically, then out of the park, and then back in, and so on. We spent 2.5 days in Acadia, and I felt like we got to see much of the main portion on Mount Desert Island. If we had more time, I would have driven and taken the ferry to the other parts of the park that are much less visited due to how remote they are. Whether you're there for a day or more, you'll want to check out the main road through the park, Park Loop Road. It circles the eastern part of Mount Desert Island and has stops at some of the major attractions and hikes. Park Loop Road is one way, and a lot is along the coast where you have beautiful views of the Atlantic. Just make sure to watch the map because we missed the first two stops we wanted to do, and because it was a one way, we had to go all the way back around to get to them. Stop at Thunder Hole. It's a carved out inlet, and when the waves crash into it, it sounds just like thunder. It's cool to see and hear and definitely worth a stop, but wouldn't take you more than 10 minutes if you didn't want to stay there for a while. We stopped again and walked down a long set of stairs to get to Little Hunter's Beach. The dogs were very interested in the waves and the seaweed. There was so much of it washed along the shore. This is a really cute, quiet spot for a picnic. The next stop was going to be Jordan Pond House, but we couldn't find a parking space, much less one for a 31-foot RV. It was around 11 a.m., so we definitely did not get there early enough. There's plenty of things to do here, so I would recommend taking the shuttle to not miss it if you can't get into the park early enough for a good parking spot. The Jordan Pond House has a restaurant where many people can sit outside on the lawn, enjoying everything from tea and popovers to lobster and chowder. You can also hike the Jordan Pond Trail. It's 3.4 miles long around Jordan Pond and will take you about an hour. We started getting a little frustrated by the lack of parking. Like, seriously, it was very difficult to find halfway decent RV parking anywhere on the island. Though we finally found some RV and oversized parking off of Eden Street, close to downtown Bar Harbor, or if you're from there, Bahaba. We walked around Bar Harbor, which is so cute. There's great views of the water. There's lots of good shops and little restaurants. I got a 6-ounce hot buttered lobster roll from Frenchman Bay Lobster Rolls and sat on a bench overlooking Frenchman Bay. Like, there's plenty of restaurants that you could go to and sit down. This was one of those hop in real quick, hop back out, no seating inside, little right off of the main drag places, and it was delicious. When I tell you this was one of the best lobster rolls I've ever had, no exaggeration. After lunch, I was less hangry, so we headed to the visitor center and figured out why the park may not seem as RV friendly as we've experienced in other places. You can park at the visitor center and take the bus most places inside Acadia. Even the dogs can take the bus. A quick note, Please don't be that person that parks your regular sized vehicle in the RV and oversized parking spaces. We don't have that many designated for us, and it's okay if your small car circles the parking lot once or twice to be able to find a space for you. We are significantly limited in where we can park. I digress. Last stop of our first day was the Precipice Trail, and this had to be one of my favorite parts of the whole trip. This hike is not for the faint of heart. The ascent is only zero point 0.9 miles, but it's over 1,000 feet in elevation gain. So you better be ready for some cardio. It starts off with a rocky trail through the trees, then a rock scramble. Then you get to the first of the metal rungs you climb up. My dad and I got through the first few rounds of these metal rungs and the ladders and up some more rocks, and it started to rain. A group ahead of us actually turned back because they were afraid of climbing the rest of the metal ladders when they were wet. It didn't last very long, and there was a beautiful rainbow, so we pressed on. It was so cool, but a little physically demanding. I was tired by the end of the summit, and you definitely felt like you got a good workout in after not even a mile. The views from the top were totally worth it, especially after the rain. From there, you have a few choices of how to get back down. You can go back the way you came, it's the shortest, just the most dangerous. Or we took the orange and black path back down, which does add a few miles, but it's pretty scenic and easy. Just FYI, the Precipice Trail is closed in early summer to protect peregrine falcon nesting grounds. That night, we stayed at the Seawall campground inside the park. There's no electric or water hookups, so you're dry camping, but it's pretty inexpensive at $30 a night. We got into the park around 8 a.m. the next day. It was Friday morning of a long weekend, and there were already plenty of people parked inside. The goal was to finish the Beehive Trail before it got too crowded, and I don't know that we really succeeded there. This is another nice adventurous hike within Acadia. It's a very steep first third up the face of a mountain. We got there pretty early, in my opinion, and it was still a traffic jam getting to the top of the trail. It was a series of ladders and rock steps, and either someone was really scared or just taking selfies the whole way up because there's a 20 or 30 person line that basically moved forward like 5, 10 feet and then stopped again. Now, the middle third of the trail is a loop around the top of the mountain, and then there's a steady, less steep climb down the back half. Now, remember how I said that the pups can take the park shuttle? There's 11 different shuttle routes on the Island Explorer bus through the park. We rode the park loop shuttle with Molly and Provolone from the visitor center up north to stop C, which is Sur de Mons. There we walked the Hemlock Path and the Jessup Path along the boardwalk. Now, at that stop, you could also see the Wild Gardens, the Nature Center, and the Abbey Museum. The visitor center parking lot seems to clear out starting around 3 p.m. during the week. So if you'd like to beat the crowds and you're not an early bird, opt for some late afternoon and sunset hikes. That evening, we visited Bar Harbor Cellars, which is a winery on the northern part of the island. They have a good mix of dry, semi-sweet, and sweeter wines. The cranberry and blueberry are on the sweeter side, and those were my two favorites. The last night we stayed there was at Bar Harbor Oceanside KOA, Campgrounds of America, also on the northern part of the island. It's one of the nicer KOAs I've been to. It's on the water, it faces the sunset, so a lot of people were out watching. And they have a lobster trap cafe, which is a little trailer shaped like a lobster where they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner some days. Acadia National Park is home to about 45 miles of rustic carriage roads, thanks to J.D. Rockefeller. He wanted to travel the island on motor-free roads, so he financed those carriage roads from 1913 to 1940. Today, pedestrians, bicyclists, and people on horseback can enjoy the carriage roads. On our last morning in the park, we drove to the left side of the island, which is much less traveled. Parts of it are definitely Acadia National Park, though we didn't have any road or parking traffic. We did the Beach Cliff Loop, which is the park's third high adventure trail. It's a loop along the top of the mountain with great views. And of course, it started raining again. And I definitely took us down the wrong part of the mountain for about half a mile. Oops. So my dad got to see some extra parts of the mountain. I didn't charge extra for the scenic tour. Then you go down a series of ladders and rock steps down to Echo Lake Beach on an out and back trail. You can also park closer to the beach on the east side of the trail and go up from there to the top of the mountain where we started. Just FYI, this trail will require you to climb back up the ladders after you go down, or vice versa if you come from the opposite direction. Unlike the precipice and beehive trails where you just have to go up and then you have other descent options. So just be sure that you're okay climbing up and down the metal ladders before you go on the Beach Cliff Loop Trail. As we left that Saturday morning of Columbus Day weekend, the traffic coming onto the island was backed up 2.5 miles. That's before you even go over the bridge to the island. So I can't imagine what it was like in downtown Bar Harbor trying to find parking and restaurant availability. There is only one road onto and off of the island, so plan your visit accordingly. I wasn't able to visit the other portions of Acadia National Park this trip, but here's what I'm planning to do when I do go back. The Shudik Peninsula has a campground and ranger station at the beginning of it, and a 6-mile loop around the peninsula where you can see Mount Desert Island views, lighthouses, seabirds, and some of Maine's small forested islands off the coast. One reason we didn't come this far north to this section is RVs are only permitted on the part of the park loop where the campground is. So just FYI. But there's great biking and hiking trails up there if you are bringing a smaller vehicle. You can also visit the third part of Acadia, which is Idaho. Half of the island is Acadia and half is privately owned. And yes, it is an island, so you're probably arriving by ferry. The ferry brings you to Duck Harbor on the southern portion of the island. There's 18 miles of trails great for hiking and biking, and Duck Harbor Campground offers 5 primitive camping sites. Now, the park does manage land and buildings on about a dozen other small islands off the coast of Maine. You can visit 2 of them, Little Cranberry Island and Baker Island, both just south of the main Mount Desert Island. Some other fun things to do when you visit Acadia National Park are whale watching tours, lobster boat tours, and the Oceanarium and Education Center. It's a hands-on aquarium with a marsh walk throughout their 20 acres of tidal salt marsh. That's all for Acadia National Park. What did I miss? What are your favorite places and things to do there? I would love to hear from you. Find me on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and send me a message. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can follow along and dream big for your journeys on the Great Escape. See you next time, adventurers.